Hello everyone, thank you for joining me for another episode of Antonio's Movie Reviews. Today I have Ex Machina, a 2014 psychological thriller written and directed by Alex Garland and starring Domhnall Gleeson, Alicia Vikander, and Oscar Isaac. The premise of the story is very subtle in that a programmer of a major tech company is invited by his CEO to be the human subject of a Turing test that he is to administer to an artificial intelligence. This film was nothing like I expected. I'm honestly still thinking about the film days after having watched it. There were many things to like about this film. The characters were thoroughly developed, the pacing was good, the movie was very thought-provoking also. For it to have come out in 2014, I believe it has aged well philosophically, especially for being about technology. In 2021, of course, the movie gave me modern-day comparisons, especially when you think about the elements of internet privacy. The performances in this film are phenomenal, and the cinematography of this film is absolutely stunning. This is in Norway.
Caleb Smith.
Yes?
Please approach the console. You may now enter the residence.
Some of my viewers who haven't seen this movie may wonder if it really fits in with the sort of movies I review at all. I actually wondered that myself, but the truth is that this movie has such a complex storyline that it does indeed touch on elements of romance and many others that I hope to explore throughout my review. I don't really review sci-fi films, which is also what I mean by this being the type of movie I review, but I thought this movie was so much more than a sci-fi film, actually. I don't know why I think a sci-fi is just having to do with aliens. It's actually a much more broad genre than that.
I can't really eat anything. I got the mother of all fucking hangovers.
Oh, yeah?
Oh my God, like you wouldn't even... Party?
Yeah, wasn't there a party?
You're freaked out by the helicopter and the mountains and the house because it's all so super cool. Can we just be two guys? Nathan and Caleb? Not the whole employer-employee?
I love the premise of Caleb, played by Gleeson, just being that sort of nerdy character that goes to visit the mysterious CEO of the big tech company. Remember the movie Antitrust with Ryan Phillippe? This is where that film wanted to go, but the movie was too before its time in my opinion.
But there's something I need you to do for me first.
Blue Book non-disclosure agreement.
In public or private forums, using any means of communication,
Some folks might find this movie a little boring in the sense that there's a lot of talking and not much action. Personally, each scene for me was full of suspense and kept me sort of intrigued as to what was next.
So, do you know what the Turing test is?
Are you building an AI?
I've already built one. You're going to be the human component in the Turing test.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's right, Caleb.
That's the history of gods.
I mean, I can see how folks may not like the film aside from just its ending, in that it does portray women in a certain way that is unacceptable. Putting that aside though, and viewing the film for what it is, there are many different concepts that can be seen throughout the film. Just from seeing it once, I was already hearing dialogue on humanity, nature, and art. I mean human nature, by the way.
Hello, Caleb.
Do you have a name?
I've never met anyone new before.
Will you come back tomorrow, Caleb?
Yes.
I'm not a man, I'm God.
I don't think that's exactly
I just thought, fuck, man, that is so good.
The movie had a lot of chilling scenes as well. Some of them were literally almost unwatchable for me. That's how enthralling this film was, in my opinion. I would say this movie isn't one that I would personally watch over and over again just because it's one of those that requires your undivided attention to be fully understood. I personally wasn't expecting to be hit with such an intelligent film, especially one that has been picked apart so academically. The twists within this film are also done quite cleverly in my opinion and weren't very predictable. I found myself captivated by the bond between Caleb and Ava growing. I didn't know what to expect from their relationship.
Backup power activated. Power restored.
I'm very glad to report that although there is some nudity, I saw no sex scenes in this movie. Some sites I see consider this film something of an erotic thriller, but I must say that I have to disagree there. Certainly it contains some elements of eroticism, but the plot doesn't use that to get the point across.
So I came to see what's going on.
The power cuts, yeah. We've been getting those recently. Hey, man.
Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry to send Kyoko to wake you, but...
That is playing chess, and it won't tell you if it knows what chess is.
So do me a favor, lay off the textbook approach. I just want simple answers to simple questions.
Alicia Vikander of Tomb Raider fame is absolutely stunning and deserves all of the praise she has received for this performance. She was nominated for a BAFTA award for her performance in this.
Do you want to be my friend?
Of course. So what, you want me to talk about myself?
Is Nathan your friend?
My friend? Yeah, I hope so.
A good friend.
In what way?
He isn't your friend.
This movie is also very complex in that it explores topics like evolution and technology versus man. As a technology management major, I'm surprised I didn't have to write some sort of essay on this. For this movie to have a lot of philosophical elements to it, the visual effects led to an Academy Award for the studio A24. I thought A24 was very well deserving of that award. One question posed in this film that stuck with me was when Caleb asked Nathan why he even made Ava to begin with, and Nathan's reply was, "Why not? Wouldn't you if you could?" or something narcissistic like that. To me, his character was bound for destruction because he was too busy trying to play God. Any film where someone is depicted as trying to play God usually ends badly for them. In saying all of these things about the messages contained within this movie, some people don't enjoy movies containing a ton of topics on social issues. Wasn't overpowering.
Outside the room I'm in now.
Where would you go if you did go outside?
The pedestrian and traffic intersection in a city.
The traffic intersection.
Then close your eyes.
Okay.
I know from reading recent reviews on the new Candyman movie that a lot of people aren't really receptive to movies that just have big societal, messages that are all in your face and come off as overpowering in regard to the actual plot of the film. These were subtle.
I'd like us to go on a date.
Yep.
Are you attracted to me?
What?
Are you attracted to me?
How?
Micro-expressions.
Micro-expressions.
The way your eyes fix on mine. I'm wondering if you're watching me on the cameras. And I hope
In regard to elements of eroticism in this film, one that is present throughout much of the movie is voyeurism. Voyeurism is something that you've seen in a lot of films of the erotic thriller genre.
What? In between her legs, there's an opening with a concentration of sensors. Sit with you.
Did you program her to like me or not?
I probed your insecurity talking. This is not your intellect. Come with me.
Voyeurism usually takes place in Hitchcock films especially. In my opinion, this is one of the elements that add enough of a sexual nature to this film for it to be considered an erotic thriller by some people. The fact that this movie isn't an erotic thriller is what gives it its voice on social issues.
And then one day someone opens the door. All her studies couldn't tell her. She learns what it feels like. How does that make you feel?
it makes me feel. I charge my batteries via induction plates. If I reverse the power of
The film may be complex when it is further broken down, but one thing I liked was that it was very easy to follow. Oftentimes I noticed that when movies attempt to take themselves too seriously, we are oftentimes left with a very convoluted storyline. Maybe it's because Ex Machina has so few characters that it's much easier to put more emphasis on who each of them are personality-wise. Right away we see that there is a deep disparity in the personalities of the two main characters, Caleb and Nathan. Nathan is an excessive drinker and has that entire alpha male persona in striking opposition to Caleb, who thought hangovers only came from attending parties. I mention that because that was one of the most predictable things about the film for me, was that their relationship was bound to sour. I myself wouldn't be able to stomach spending a week with Nathan watching him lift weights and objectify women. In that regard, we can almost predict that this movie has to end badly. I mean, we know from the very well-crafted dialogue of this film of Nathan's passion to control the AI segment of technology. Nathan was purely neurotic.
What's your favorite color?
Seeing as I'm not 6, I don't really have a favorite color.
Better answer.
Caleb ultimately sees Ava as real in the sense of being a human being in society, and that leads to an amazing climax in this film. It's sometimes hard to blame Caleb, actually.
I want to be with you.
Any more than you and me. She's part of a continuum, so version 9.6 and so on, and each time the good deeds a man has done before defend him. The good.
There is certainly no way that this power dynamic mismatch wasn't going to culminate in some type of boiling point, in my opinion. Along with that, we have the sexual tension of Caleb that is almost overpowering him by this point in my opinion. The movie itself doesn't really answer that question in my opinion. I mean, we know that the lust is there, but in the case of Ava and Caleb, I didn't find any instances where it was actually explored aside from the voyeurism. When Nathan is seen brutalizing the androids on camera, we learn just the direction he is truly willing to go with his objects. At this point, the movie becomes exponentially more suspenseful when we question what it is that Nathan may or may not know. With a budget of only $15 million, the visual effects in this film remain exceedingly stunning.
Power cut.
Don't talk.
Backup power.
We're getting out of here tonight.
You know what day it is?
No.
It's your last. Helicopter comes tomorrow morning.
We need to drink to that.
The scene of Caleb cutting open his arm was an eye-opener for me. I thought this movie had been taken over by David Cronenberg for a moment there. Last act of this movie is very twisty. It's almost as if you missed something, but when you think of earlier scenes, it begins to put itself together.
Maybe if she thought of you as a means of escape. How's that vodka tasting?
Ava as a femme fatale, Nathan says? How could such a sweet robot conceive of such a devious idea, you may be asking yourself? I know I was definitely asking those questions, but if I gained anything from Ava's conversation, it was that she was very lonely, caged.
Selected me based on my search engine inputs.
They showed a good kid. Well, I guess it's 10 o'clock.
Ava ultimately knew that there was more to life than living in this isolated yet beautiful bunker, which is very akin to her as a character in this film. From what we can tell during the ending of this film, Nathan has seemingly gone into defense mode, and after Caleb's plan succeeds, we see this film accelerate very violently. Kyoko, who is also an android we learned, is also part of the plan, which for me was one of my favorite twists. The fact that Ava was able to compel Kyoko to attack Nathan is also in a sense them teaming together against the misogynistic ideology that Nathan represented. Once I saw Ava carry out that subtle act of manipulation on Kyoko, I saw that she ultimately had a plan of her own. I never could tell if Caleb knew about Kyoko being part of it because he was of course leveled early on by Nathan. I can't help but to highlight Alicia Vikander in these scenes. She made it all work in my opinion. Without her it would have been hardly believable.
What happened?
Will you stay here?
In the end, I must say that this film gave me a very enjoyable surprise. It was way more than I expected, and by that I mean in its plot. The plot seems as if it could have went a way happier route if it wanted to, but what Garland gave us is a dark, eerie film that was just as thought-provoking as it was beautiful. Having only 3 central characters and pretty much taking place in one setting, the movie could have been very claustrophobic and closed-minded. It certainly was neither of those. I enjoy the originality of this film. That is something that is truly missing from cinema these days. If this movie ever has a sequel, they had better not change the crew for the benefit of maintaining its integrity. And thank you everyone for joining me for my review on the 2014 film Ex Machina starring Domhnall Gleeson, Alicia Vikander, and Oscar Isaac. The film was written and directed by Alex Garland in his directorial debut. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all again soon. Thanks.